Alright, so this is going to be another video about solving quadratic equations with complex solutions, and we have 5 problems here that we're basically going to be working out, so hopefully this concept makes more sense after watching this video. So this first one here, if you notice, it's not actually in standard form, so I'm going to rewrite it really quick so it's in standard form. Alright, so I rewrote the problem in standard form, so now what I'm going to do is use quadratic formula to figure out those solutions. It's going to be negative b, which is negative 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 9, minus 4 times 2 times 6, because it's 4 times a times c. So 4 times 2 is 8 times 6 is 48, so we're going to put a 48 in here. And then we're going to divide all this by 2a, which is 2 times this 2 right here, and you're going to end up with a 4 over here. All right, from here I'm going to simplify that radical really quick. So you're going to have negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 39. Okay, from here I'm going to take out the I from that square root of negative 39. So it's going to be I times the square root of 39. There's no perfect squares in root 39, so that's completely simplified. So we can just divide this by 4 like so, and you end up with your answer. All right, now we're gonna do the next one here. And if you notice with the next one, it's already in standard form, so that makes it a little easy. So we're gonna say x is equal to negative b, which is negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 4, minus 4ac. Well, a is 1, and so you would do 4 times 1 times 3 is 12. Okay, and then we're gonna divide this all by 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. All right, from here, I'm gonna do negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 8. And we're gonna divide all that by 2. I'm gonna simplify that square root of negative 8 really quick. I'll pull the I out, and then it's just gonna be times root 8, which actually breaks down to root 2 over, which breaks down to 2 root 2. Then we're gonna divide this by 2. And if you notice, you can divide the top and the bottom by 2. So if you divide the top by 2, it's going to be negative 1 plus or minus root 2 times I. So essentially, this 2 and this 2 are going to cancel when you divide by 2, and then this 2 is just going to become 1. So you end up with a final answer of negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 2i for that one. All right, this next one I'm gonna put into standard form really quick by adding this 5 to both sides. So you're gonna end up with x squared plus 2x plus 5. Now that it's in standard form, we can use quadratic formula. So it's gonna be negative b, which is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which is gonna be 4 minus 20. And then we're dividing this by 2a, which is gonna be a 2 here. From here, it's going to be negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 16. All of this is divided by 2. Then I'm going to simplify that radical. So it's going to be negative 2 plus or minus I times the square root of 16 all over 2. This is going to simplify to negative 2 plus or minus 4i all over 2, and then you're going to end up with, if you divide the top and the bottom by 2, you're going to have negative 1 plus or minus 2i for your final answer. All right, the next one is not in standard form, so we're going to have to simplify it real quick. I'm just going to subtract 7 from both sides, so it'll be 0 is equal to 3x squared minus 6x plus 4. Now that it's in standard form, I can use quadratic formula. So it's going to be x is equal to negative b. So it's going to be 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 36, minus 4ac. So we have 12 times 4, which is 48. So we have something like this. And then we're dividing it by 2a, which is just going to be 2 times 3 to get 6. Then we're going to simplify that radical. So it's going to be 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 12, all divided by 6. From here, I'm going to simplify this radical. So it's going to be 6 plus or minus I times 2 root 3, all divided by 6. I'm going to divide the top and the bottom. There's a common factor of 2 at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to divide the top by 2, so you get that 6 becomes a 3. This 2 is going to end up canceling out. So basically this becomes a 3, this cancels out, this becomes a 3. So you're going to end up with the square root of 3 times I, and then this is all divided by 3 for the final answer. Now, if you wanted to, you could simplify this a little bit further if you did the 3 over 3 on the outside here. So you could just do 1 plus or minus the square root of 3 over 3i. So either the highlighted green or highlighted blue would actually count as the answer. Okay. And then we have this last problem here. It is not in standard form, so I'm going to have to convert it really quick to standard form. And you're going to be left with negative 7x squared minus 4x. And then I'm going to add 9 to both sides here. So you're going to end up with negative 10 plus 9 is negative 1 is equal to 0. From here, we're going to use quadratic formula since it's in standard form. So you're going to do negative 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 16, minus 4ac. So then we're going to multiply it by 4ac, which is going to be 4 times negative 7 times negative 1. And you end up with 28. And this is all going to be divided by 2a, which in this case is going to be negative 14. All right, from here, we can simplify the radical. So it's going to be negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 12. So we get another negative 12 here. And then we're dividing this by negative 14. Now, negative 12 will simplify. The square root of negative 12 will simplify to, we can pull the I out, and then there's going to be times 2 times root 3. And then we're going to divide all of that by negative 14. And then if you notice, there is a factor of a 2 on the top and on the bottom. So I'm going to divide the top by 2. So that cancels out. Then I'm going to divide the bottom by 2. And you're going to be left with x is equal to 2 over 7 plus or minus root 3 over negative 7 I. And since there's a plus or minus and this negative here, it's just kind of redundant to have both of them. So I'm actually going to just erase this right here because it's going to be plus or minus a negative is just still plus or minus, so you don't actually need it there. And that ends up being your final answer there. So that's basically 5 example problems of quadratic equations with complex solutions. Hopefully that cements the concept a little bit more. If you have any questions about anything in this video, let me know.